Hello everybody, welcome back to the workshop. So in this video, we are going to be turning an old farrier's rasp into a rasp snake. So the things you're going to need for this project, and we'll go over a variant here in just a second, but the things you'll need for this project is a farrier's rasp. Now I prefer a farrier's rasp that is at least 2 inches wide, or at least 2 to inch and a half to 2 inches wide, and roughly about 14 inches long. So if you can find you a nice big file, that is the way to go. Also, what you'll need for this is about 8 inches of 3/8 inch round bar stock. I'll chuck some metric measurements there for you guys across the pond up on the screen now. So without further ado, let's bring you in a little closer and we'll talk about the one variant that you can do to this versus the method that I'll be showing you today. Okay, so let's talk real quick about the variant that you can do on this rasp snake. So the method I'm going to be using today is going to require welding. Now you can either forge weld it or you can arc weld it. Now my preference is to arc weld it. This is more of like a forge fab project than a fully forged project for this particular style that I'm after. The reason why I recommend arc welding it versus forge welding it in this case is because it just makes it a little bit easier to get things right and to make sure that you don't cut in. This material is a lot harder and stiffer than what that 3/8 bar is. So if you want to do a forge weld, you might consider making your 3/8 bar out of some higher carbon material. Otherwise, it has a tendency to cut right down through the mild steel. So the variant to this, let's say you don't have an arc welder and you still want to make a nice rasp snake. One variant that you can do, today we're going to be making this the head of the snake and splitting out this for the tongue of the snake and wrapping it back in, and we'll punch some eyes in here and make it look neat. And then the tail will be this section. If you don't want to take and do that version of a rasp snake, you can actually draw this material down to meet the length here and turn that into its tail and make the other end the mouth of the snake, if you will, and you can easily tuck a bit of bar stock in there with a little forked tongue. The choice is up to you, but I'm going to show you the method that I was shown by a good buddy of mine by the name of Wayne Apgar, and he was an initial teacher of mine and mentor. So without further ado, let's get this in the fire, and we're going to start with forging the body of the rasp snake, and then we'll move on to doing the tail and the rest of the work like that. Okay, the first step in this is we're going to go ahead and forge down what's going to be the tail a little bit. We want to take this down and narrow it up a little bit. This is going to make the transition a little bit easier from what will become the body of the snake or the fat portion of the snake down to what will become the thin portion or the tail. So we need a little transitionary area here. Don't go too far with this because remember, we still have to wrap this. So we're going to end up wrapping this around that little 3/8 bar stock. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to make this tip, we're trying to reduce the cross-sectional area here in width so it makes a little nicer looking transition. Now you want to take care, you want to preserve as much of all of this rasp as you can, because that rasp, those teeth on that rasp, that's going to become the scales on the snake. So you want to make sure you preserve that the best you can. So don't go too crazy or too whole hams on that. Okay, so after you have sufficiently thinned this section down, as you can see, I've drawn it out quite a bit. I've drawn that area out quite a bit. This is going to give me a really nice long snake. Again, I have really labored to try to stay off as much as I can on that texture that's going to be the scales of the snake. We're going to dress this up. You can see it's getting quite thin there. We've got nice and thin. That's what we're looking after there. So once you've got it down to that point, as you see, it's got that nice kind of taper to it up to where the snake's belly is going to be. We're going to flip this around and we're going to grab it from the other end now. I want to change tongs, obviously. I'm not going to use the same pair of tongs here. But now what we need to do is we need to establish where the head's going to be. The way we're going to do that is we're actually going to do that over the horn of the anvil, because we want a nice smooth transition there. But I'm going to aim for this area, basically see where it goes from the rasp material to the smooth material or the handle material. In that little area there, I'm going to come just behind that, and I'm going to neck that down a little bit in order to take and create the snake. When I say a little bit, I mean just enough to establish it there, because what's going to happen is we're going to roll that up tighter in that area, and that's going to give us that kind of fat belly in the snake that we're looking for and give us enough for our head to look kind of neat. So we're not going to go super crazy, but we are going to neck that down just a fuzz. So let's do that now. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and neck down this area a little bit. Again, we're just kind of aiming to just create a little bit of a waist area there. And you're going to notice that normally what we would do is we would try to stop this from cupping, but we don't really want to do that. So there you go, we've got that, and you can see how it's starting to cup a little bit. Usually that would be something that you'd flatten out in your work. Again, we're trying to save these scales, right? We're trying to save these really cool scales. So you don't really want to discourage that cupping. But by doing that little bit of forging there, we have created a nice little neck area. Okie doke, now we're going to go ahead and cut and split this tongue. Now, you can do this on the bandsaw, or you can use a chisel like I'm using here. If you're using a chisel, be careful of your anvil. Don't make the mistake of cutting all the way through. Now we're not going to cut all the way back on this tongue because we're going to use a bit of the tongue material here to become the nose of the snake. So cut down to where there's maybe about an inch of material left between the head and the end of your forked tongue there. So before I break through, I'm going to flip it over. Hopefully you guys can see there. And I'm going to come from the other side, and I'm just going to back split this, which is going to help kind of break that seam open, but without hitting my own anvil. Okay, so now what I need to do is go to the vise, and I can split that little forked tongue open, right? All right, now that we've got that tongue split apart, we went over to the vise with just a little splitting work there to get it split apart. We're going to go ahead and forge these little tines out nice and thin. What would look like a nice little pointy snake's tongue. We're going to do that to both sides. Make sure they're somewhat equal in length. That's what you're going after here. Again, this is a snake, or a figurative type snake, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want it to have the impression of a really nice looking snake for you. So you want to give it that nice impression. So there we go. So now we got our forked tongue split there. We're going to go ahead and heat this back up. Remember, you are working with a higher carbon material. You're not working with soft, mild steel. So you can't just keep bending and working these things cold. So we're going to heat this back up. We're going to push these back a little closer, and we're going to bend the nose and bend the tongue back out here. Christ-Centered Ironworks is sponsored by blacksmithsupply.com and viewers like you. Be sure to check out blacksmithsupply.com for all your forging needs. Now back to the video. All right, first we're going to put the tongue back together somewhat. Don't have to go crazy together. But you do want to verify that they're both roughly the same length. And then we're going to go ahead and bend his nose back, or what will become the nose of the snake, and just drive that back down on itself, just like so. If you guys can see that there. How those tuck. All right. Now we'll get a chisel in here, and we will lift these back the opposite way, and we're basically just making a zigzag pattern with our tongue. So let me heat that back up. While that heats up, I'm going to go ahead and grab my chisel. Now for this process, I'm just grabbing any chisel that has a nice enough length that I can use as a pry bar. That's really the only prerequisite here. So we're just going to get it up enough, just like you see it here. So we can come back and tap on it like so, and then tap those tongue pieces down like so. We're going to come in and work that tongue down, just like so. See that there? See how we've made a nice little zigzag pattern there? That's what we're after. This is going to build up the front face of the snake. And now that we've got that set, I like getting everything in line so I can make sure everything's proportional. Looks good. Again, we've created that zigzag pattern. Now that that's set, now we can go ahead and I'm going to take and stamp in two basically beady eyes. And I'm going to stamp those in with just a center punch. We're not going to go crazy, but I'm going to do them about right here and just to the other side. Basically right at the base of where that file's transition was to its handle. We're going to put one there, and we're going to put one over here, and then we're going to wrap that head to make the jaws around the rest of the head there. We will also use that same center punch to drive in a couple nostrils. Okay, time to go ahead and put the eyeballs on this sneaky snake here. You can get as elaborate as you would like with these. I'm going fairly simple here, but you can make up a specific eyeball that's great for this purpose on your own. You make them where they're like slits, like a proper snake. It's got eyeball slits in it. That could be very attractive. I'm making mine simple, but again, you don't have to. You can make yours as elaborate as you would like. So I'm going to go to this little crook of my anvil. I'm going to give it a few taps just to get the bend started. That way I can get the arch going. And now I'm going to go ahead and forge these jaw pieces, the sharpest portions, down and wrap them around. Again, we're trying to create a mouth where the head, you know, the shape of a snake's head. We're going to bring them around to where they just touch each other, just like so. I'm going to brush that up. And hopefully you guys can see how the jaws kind of flare out there. That's what we're looking to do. And then obviously, when we go ahead and draw down the rest of this down, flipping it over regularly, that's going to create the neck area behind the head of the snake. See how that works? Now, if you notice, this is starting to develop a little twist in it. That is not a problem. This is just a twist. So what we need to do is we need to lock the head of this snake in the vise, or you can grab a hold of it with a heavy pair of tongs and just twist it back at heat, and that'll center everything back up for you. You don't want this to roll up like a spiral, and you'll have to adjust that as you curl this, as you curl the snake body up as you go. But you'll want to take and go ahead and roll that back straight before you progress. So I'll show you that with just using a pair of tongs in the next step so you can see how I just adjust it back in order. Okay, good and hot. We're just going to grab a hold of the head with a good pair of tongs here, and we're going to twist that back straight and in line to where everything's nice and parallel. I might give this a little bit of an adjustment hit. Again, that's going to end up getting closed up. Want to be careful not to be wailing on these, on its scales too much. but you want to keep adjusting this at every heat and keep it nice and clean before you move on to your next step. It's good to get everything in line and before you continue to take and roll this up into a nice tube. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and draw this out now. As you see, I got my work nice and hot. We're going to draw this tail section out for about 3 inches of material. Basically making almost a 3-inch long taper. We're not going to go super thin with this, but we're going to make a nice little taper here. Like I said, draw for about 3 inches of material at least. Now I'm just doing a standard snake. If you wanted to turn this into a rattler snake, make it like a rattlesnake, all you would have to do is you would slightly bob the end instead of pointing it like this, and then you would chisel grooves around it or segment it with a guillotine tool. But in this particular case, we're just going to make a very basic snake. All right, got that all nicely squared up, so now I'm going to go ahead and round that all up. All right, right on. We've got that done. There's no need to do anything fancy with it yet. We still got a long ways to go. By the time we grab the other piece here, we still got a good ways to go. We want to weld this in before we get going too far down the road here. So we'll get this, we got to wrap this around now. The reason why you need to forge this as the next step after you get your head done is because you need to take and wrap this tail section around so it fits tightly onto here. And that's about how far that's going to go in there as well. So that's the whole reason of needing to take and do your tail section next. So now when we go and we actually start wrapping this and rolling this up into a tube, we can roll it around this piece out here at the very end, and that will hold and secure that while we get it welded. Once everything's arc welded together, that's when we start giving the shape to the snake and giving it life. Okay, to wrap the body of this sneaky snake, how do we do that without crushing all of those fine scales that we want to keep in the snake body? Well, simple answer is we use a wood block. This is just a bit of 6x6 lumber with a notch in the side of it. So I just cut a notch in the side of it to basically create a relief area. Ignore this. This was just me fooling around with a piece, nailing it into the wood. But here we've just created a nice little recess for it to help form the snake's body. Now you can use this for a whole lot of different purposes, but it's always good to have a stump in the shop that has a nice little crook in it, so this way you can form the body of that. We're going to use a cross peen hammer to drive and match that curvature, and then what that will do is that will help start rolling our body of our snake up. What we need is we really need to just be able to start the process of rolling, and then we can work it over with hand, going from one side to the other to make sure that we roll it up nice and even. Now, if you develop a twist as it goes, like I said, we just grip on both ends and twist it back straight until we have that nice belly seam. So without further ado, let's take out this snake body here and we'll start rolling this up. Now this is bound to produce a lot of smoke, so you'll want to do this in a well-ventilated area. We're going to aim as close to center as you can. That will help with things not twisting around so much on you. As you hammer on this piece, and we're going to start getting some cupping there. And that's what we're after. If it cools down and you find yourself really wailing on this to get any movement, just heat it back up again. Take your time. As they say, Rome was not built in a day. All right, we're continuing to roll this up. I've switched to a anvil mounted wooden block to continue my rolling operation here. This thing was made by Blue Health Studio. They're down out of Cincinnati, Ohio. If you're interested in them, I'll put a link, hashtag not a sponsor, but I'll put a link to their forge there in the description down below. So as you can see, we're still making and rolling this up like a taco. Do that to the very end. Work both sides evenly. Get it close. And once we're close enough, then we will drop this in and finish forming that around it to hold that tail section in. Just like so. And we're pretty close there. I need to give it a few more whacks while it's nice and hot to get it close enough where I can finish that off. So the next heat we'll do that. We'll drop this tail in there and close it up around it. Alrighty, we're getting close. Continue to roll up the body of the snake a little bit. Get in nice and close like. Again, I'm avoiding as much as I can hitting the scale portions of this. I'm going to tuck this in here. And then I'm going to close it up around that. Just like so. Let's tighten that up. Now I'll continue to close this right up on around that rod. All right, pro tip. If you want to go real crazy with your snake, and I mean make really nice tight coils and things like that without this kinking, because it will kink because it's a tube essentially now. If you want to be able to do that, plan to have a rod as long as the snake's body is, plus some sticking out. That will allow you to bend this in any shape or direction you would like without the body of it flattening out and kinking in one particular area or another. So pro tip there for you. Now we're going to do a little bit of straightening using a wood mallet from on top. Straighten the body up. We can use that on the anvil as well. And voila. Now, I may still have to come back in and tighten this up a little bit, which is fine. And like I said, if that belly line's not running nice and true, you just grab on it and give it a little twist there. So we'll do that. So now it's time to put the final touches on this snake. I will be right back with you after I'm done welding up the little tail here with the arc welder. Okay, so this is where we sit after I've welded it on this 3/8 inch rod or tail section here inside of the snake's body. As you can see, it has been welded, and I have dressed that weld down a little bit to basically smooth everything out. Now, that's going to look quite odd if we leave it like that when we go and make up the rest of the snake. Since we want this to have an appearance of all one piece, what we're going to do is we're going to heat this area back up to where it gets to about a scaling heat, so about orange or so in color. And then we're going to go ahead and hammer some of this weld joint out of the piece. So this way it'll look a little bit more natural, and it'll blend that weld off nicely and make it nice and smooth. After that, we're going to use this simple tool right here. This tool is a bending fork. This is nothing special. This is a bit of 5/8 inch round rod bent into a U shape and welded onto a 1-inch hardy stem. And it just goes in the anvil like so. So this way we can go ahead and use it to pry on and bend this snake in a serpentine kind of pattern and get the shape we're after. Again, we're going to be very careful not to just do a whole bunch of flattening out of all of our scales that we have here on our nice little snake, but we're going to be careful about that as we bend this up. So I'm going to go ahead and grip the snake by its head up here, and we will forge out this tail section. Okay, nice and warm. Shows a little hotter on camera, but that's natural. On camera, you know, it might look like it's a brighter yellow, but this is in fact a nice orange color, a really bright orange color, or just right at the start of the scaling heat. Again, we're not going crazy with this. We don't need to reduce this crazy in cross section. All we're doing is giving this joint a little bit of hammer work to make it all look like one nice smooth cohesive piece and really blend out our welded area. Consequently, another little pro tip here for you. If you are, let's say you're in charge of reproducing something, all right, that is meant to look historical, right? So you're needing to reproduce something like a historical piece, okay? But let's say your skills haven't progressed to the point yet that you feel very comfortable with forged welding. One thing you can do is you can arc weld like what you see here, and you can just hammer out that joint. File it really cleanly, and then you know, hammer it out a little bit, create some scale texture, and you can make a what otherwise you know, again would have been a ugly, you know, modern weld. You can make it just disappear into your piece. I have had to do that earlier on in my career before I felt comfortable with forged welding. I had to do that same thing for a couple jobs that I had taken on that were a little bit too big for my britches, to be honest, but I learned loads by taking them on. So don't let that discourage you. You can find other ways of, you know, basically doing the same thing. All right, the very first thing we're going to do is we want to go ahead and make this snake head kind of come up above the flat plane of where it's going to be slithering at, if you will. So we're going to make that come up a little bit. So we want our snake to kind of be a little bit above, give it some dimension. So where it's coming up a little bit, I think that'll look really cool. So that's the first order of business. Brush that down. And this really is where this whole thing starts coming to life. These are a lot of fun. I really encourage you all to play around with this a little bit. By the way, I'm using a rawhide mallet here. I really encourage you all to play around with doing one of these. Even if you don't intend to do them full time, you can learn quite a bit. They're quite a bit of fun. As you bend this, you want to make sure, so if you've chosen to take and make your head of your snake pop up, you want to make sure that your bends are at a 90 degree to that. You don't want to be bending on this with your snake turned like this and going back and forth, because you're not going to get the snake to sit right in the long run. So keep that in mind when you're doing these. Now for this particular snake, I'm going to go ahead and put in my touch mark, because I do plan on selling it on my website. So say that I made it there. This thing again, brush it down nice and heavy. And you can finish this off with any sort of wax finish or paint. You can brass brush this. You can shine it up to silvery. You could do all sorts of various things to it. Kind of really whatever tickles your fancy. One thing that I'm going to make sure of before I finish it completely off is I'm going to make sure that it sits up on its own. Right now it doesn't. So that means I've got a little twist in it, and I need to make sure that I adjust some things so this will sit on its own and look like a snake. Like I said, real natural-like. That's the goal. I want it to be able to sit up on its own and have this nice natural flow to it. So anyways, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching making this rasp snake. I'll put a picture up here at the end of the final result. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. God bless each and every last one of you. Thank you to all the channel members that make content on this channel possible. And we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.